Sarah Jenkins worked as a flight attendant for Sky Blue Airlines. She had this job for 5 years now. She loved helping people and making sure everyone had a good flight. Most days, her job was nice. She smiled at passengers, served drinks and food, and helped with any problems. But today was different. Today would change her life forever. It was a busy Monday morning at New York Airport. Flight SB-247 to San Francisco was full. Sarah got to work early to help get the plane ready. She checked the safety equipment, made sure there were enough blankets, and put welcome gifts on the first-class seats. "Sarah, we have a full flight today," said Mark, the head flight attendant. "And I just heard the weather might be bad. Get ready for a tough one." Sarah nodded and fixed her blue uniform. She was good at her job, even on hard days. As passengers started to board, she stood by the door with a big smile. "Welcome aboard. Enjoy your flight," she said to each person who walked in. Most people smiled back or said thanks. Some looked tired or busy with their phones. This was normal. First class filled up with business people in nice suits. They asked for drinks before takeoff and put away their expensive bags. Then came the economy passengers, families with kids, old people, and tourists. When almost everyone was seated, a man walked in. He wore old jeans, a plain black t-shirt, and worn-out sneakers. He had messy hair and looked like he just woke up. Nothing special about him, Sarah thought. Just another economy passenger. The man looked at his ticket and went to seat 24C, middle seat, economy class, near the back. Sarah watched him as he tried to put his bag in the overhead bin. He seemed annoyed when there wasn't much space left. "Need help?" Sarah asked with her usual smile. "The overhead bins are full," the man complained. "Can't you find more space?" Sarah kept her smile. "I'm sorry, sir. The flight is very full today. Maybe we can put your bag under the seat in front of you." The man frowned. "This is a laptop. It shouldn't go under the seat." Sarah looked around and found a small space in another bin. "Here, let me help you." She put his bag away, and the man went to his seat without saying thanks. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Sarah did her safety demonstration. Most people didn't watch, but she did it perfectly anyway. Safety was important to her. Once in the air, the drink service started. When Sarah reached row 24, the messy-haired man stopped her. "Can I get a scotch?" he asked. "Of course, sir. That will be $8, Sarah said. The man looked surprised. "It's not free. Only soft drinks are free in economy class, sir," Sarah explained. "That's stupid," the man said. "Fine, water then." Sarah gave him water and moved on. But 10 minutes later, he pressed the call button. "This water is not cold enough," he said when she came. "And I need a blanket." Sarah brought him a blanket and colder water. She was still polite, but inside, she felt annoyed. Some passengers just wanted to complain. During the next hour, the man pressed the call button 5 more times. He asked for more snacks, complained about the temperature, and wanted to know when food would be served. Each time, Sarah helped him with a smile, but it was getting harder. Other flight attendants noticed. "You've got a difficult one there," Lisa whispered to Sarah during a break. "Good luck." Sarah just nodded. She had dealt with difficult passengers before. It was part of the job. But something about this man bothered her. He wasn't just needy. He seemed to be testing her, watching how she reacted to each complaint. Little did Sarah know, this shabby-dressed man would soon turn her life upside down. And the worst mistake of her career was just hours away. 2 hours into the flight, the captain made an announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are expecting some turbulence ahead. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin." Sarah and the other flight attendants quickly collected trash and checked that everything was secure. The seatbelt sign turned on with a clear ding sound. Most passengers followed the rules and stayed seated, but not the man in seat 24C. Just as the plane began to shake a little, He stood up. "Sir, please sit down and fasten your seatbelt," Sarah said as she walked by. "We're entering turbulence." The man ignored her. "I need to get something from my bag." "Sir, your bag can wait. This is for your safety," Sarah explained. The plane shook harder now, and she had to hold on to the seats to stay steady. "It will just take a second," the man said. He opened the overhead bin and started searching through his bag. Sarah felt her face get hot. This passenger had been difficult all day, and now he was breaking an important safety rule. The pilot had warned about bad turbulence, and this man was putting himself in danger. "Sir, I must insist. Please sit down now," she said more firmly. The man turned to her with an annoyed look. "I know what I'm doing." Just then, the plane dropped suddenly. People gasped. A few screamed. The man lost his balance and almost fell into another passenger's lap. His bag shifted in the overhead bin, and a laptop nearly fell out. Sarah caught the laptop just in time and shoved it back in the bin, closing it quickly. She was angry now, but still kept her professional voice. "Sir, this is not a suggestion. It is a safety requirement. Please return to your seat immediately." The man got up from where he had fallen and brushed off his clothes. Other passengers were watching now. Some looked annoyed at him for not following rules. "Do you know who I am?" the man asked in a loud voice. He stood straight and looked down at Sarah. Sarah had heard this question before from other difficult passengers. They always thought they were special and rules didn't apply to them. "No, sir, I don't know who you are," she answered honestly. "But on this aircraft, everyone must follow safety rules. No exceptions." The man laughed a little. "I think you should know who you're talking to before you use that tone." The plane shook hard again. A drink someone had left on their tray spilled. The captain's voice came over the speakers again. "Crew, prepare for more severe turbulence." "Sir, sit down now," Sarah said, no longer hiding her frustration. "Or what?" the man challenged her. "Are you going to make me? I've been watching how this airline runs all day, and I'm not impressed." Something in Sarah snapped. This man had pushed her limits all day. Now he was putting himself and others in danger and acting proud about it. Without thinking, she grabbed his arm to lead him back to his seat. The man pulled away sharply. "Don't touch me. Who do you think you are?" "I am the flight attendant responsible for safety on this aircraft," Sarah said through clenched teeth. "And you err." The plane dropped violently. Both Sarah and the man lost their balance. As they stumbled, the man's hand accidentally hit Sarah's face. It wasn't hard, but it surprised her. Acting on instinct and anger, Sarah did something she had never done before in her 5 years as a flight attendant. Her hand moved before her brain could stop it. Slap! The sound seemed to echo through the whole cabin. Sarah's hand had connected with the man's cheek. A perfect red mark appeared on his face. Everyone went quiet. The only sound was the plane's engines and the wind outside. Sarah's hand tingled. She couldn't believe what she had just done. The man touched his cheek slowly, his eyes wide with shock. Without another word, he sat down and fastened his seatbelt. Sarah stood frozen in place. Her heart beat fast, and her hands shook. She had just slapped a passenger. She had just committed the worst mistake of her career. The rest of the flight was very quiet. Sarah stayed in the back of the plane, trying to hide from everyone. Her hands still felt warm from the slap. Her mind kept playing the moment over and over again. "I slapped a passenger. I slapped a passenger," she thought. In 5 years as a flight attendant, she had never done anything like this. She had dealt with drunk people, angry people, and even people who tried to smoke in the bathroom. But she had always kept her cool. Until today. Lisa, another flight attendant, came to check on her. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. "No," Sarah whispered. "I'm going to lose my job." "What happened exactly?" Lisa asked. "I was in the front and just heard about it." Sarah explained how the man refused to sit down during bad turbulence, how he challenged her, how she lost her temper when the plane dropped. He was being dangerous, Lisa said. But she didn't finish her sentence. They both knew that flight attendants couldn't slap passengers, no matter what. When the plane finally landed in San Francisco, Sarah's hands were shaking. She stood by the door and said goodbye to passengers as they left. She tried to act normal, but inside she felt sick. When the difficult man walked past, he didn't look at her. His cheek still had a small red mark. As the last passenger left, Mark, the head flight attendant, came up to Sarah. His face was very serious. "The captain wants to see you," he said, "and Karen from HR is waiting at the gate." Sarah nodded. This was it. She was going to be fired. She might even face legal trouble if the man decided to sue the airline. She followed Mark off the plane with heavy steps. At the gate, a woman in a business suit was waiting. "Sarah Jenkins?" she asked. Sarah nodded. "I'm Karen from Human Resources. We need to talk about what happened on the flight." They walked to a small office in the airport. Karen opened the door, and Sarah was surprised to see the captain there, looking worried. "Sarah, can you tell us what happened?" Karen asked after they all sat down. Sarah took a deep breath and told the whole story. She didn't make excuses. She admitted she was wrong to slap the passenger. "I know I broke the rules," she finished. "I'm ready to accept whatever punishment you think is fair." Karen looked at her notes. "The passenger you slapped has already filed a complaint." "I'm not surprised," Sarah said quietly. "But that's not all," Karen continued. "Do you know who that passenger was?" Sarah shook her head. "Just a difficult man in economy class." Karen and the captain looked at each other. The captain spoke up. "That was David Reynolds." Sarah waited for more information. The name didn't mean anything to her. "David Reynolds," Karen repeated. "The new CEO of Sky Blue Airlines." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Her stomach dropped. She had slapped the CEO of her company. Not just any passenger, but her ultimate boss. The person who could fire everyone in the room with a single word. The CEO. Sarah could barely speak, but he was in economy class. In old clothes. Why would he? He was doing an undercover check, Karen explained. "The board hired him last month, and he wanted to experience our airline as a regular customer before making any changes. No special treatment, no first-class upgrade, no staff knowing who he was." Sarah covered her face with her hands. This was even worse than she thought. She had not only slapped a passenger, breaking all airline rules. She had slapped the new boss who was secretly checking on the service quality. "He wants to see you," the captain said. "Right now." "To fire me himself," Sarah whispered. Karen stood up. "Follow me." With legs that felt like jelly, Sarah followed Karen down a long hallway. Each step felt like walking to her doom. They stopped at a door marked Conference Room A. Karen knocked, and a voice inside said, "Come in." Sarah took one last deep breath. Her career was over. She opened the door and walked in to face the CEO she had slapped. Sarah walked into the conference room with her head down. She couldn't look up. She was too scared and embarrassed. The room was big with a long table in the middle. At the end of the table sat the man she had slapped, David Reynolds, the CEO of Sky Blue Airlines. He looked different now. He had changed from his old jeans and wrinkled t-shirt into a nice gray suit. His messy hair was now combed neatly. He looked powerful and important. The red mark from Sarah's slap was still visible on his left cheek. "Ms. Jenkins, please sit down," he said, pointing to a chair across from him. Sarah sat down. Her legs were shaking. She folded her hands on the table to stop them from shaking too. "Mr. Reynolds, I am so sorry," she started. "I was wrong to slap you. There is no excuse for what I did. I accept any punishment, even being fired." She finally looked up at his face, expecting to see anger. But instead, the CEO had a small smile on his face. This confused Sarah. "Ms. Jenkins," he said, Do you know why I was traveling in economy class dressed like a regular person? To check on the service, Sarah answered quietly. Exactly, he nodded. I wanted to see how our staff treats normal passengers when they don't know they're talking to the boss. And I learned a lot today. Sarah waited for him to continue. Was he building up to firing her? I saw flight attendants who smiled but didn't really care, he went on. I saw staff who followed the rules but had no passion for their jobs. And then I saw you. David Reynolds leaned forward. You were different. You really tried to help everyone. You remembered people's names. You checked on the old lady who was nervous about flying. You found a toy for the crying baby. Sarah was surprised. She didn't know the CEO had been watching her so closely. But then I decided to test you, he admitted. I started being difficult on purpose. I made unreasonable requests. I complained about everything. And still, you stayed professional. Until I slapped you, Sarah said, looking down again. Yes, until then, the CEO agreed. But do you know why you finally lost your temper? Sarah thought for a moment. Because you wouldn't sit down during turbulence. Exactly. David Reynolds hit the table with his hand. You didn't get angry when I complained about the food. You didn't get upset when I asked for things we didn't have. You only lost your cool when I broke a safety rule and put myself and others in danger. Sarah hadn't thought about it that way. Safety is the most important thing in an airline, the CEO continued. More important than customer service, more important than making people happy. And you understood that. He stood up and walked around the table. Was slapping me the right response? No, that was wrong. But your instinct to protect everyone on that plane was right. Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had expected to be fired immediately. Instead, the CEO was almost praising her. Sir, I don't understand, she said. Are you not going to fire me? David Reynolds sat on the edge of the table. Ms. Jenkins, do you like working for Sky Blue Airlines? I love my job, Sarah answered honestly. Or at least I did until today when I thought I ruined everything. The CEO nodded. Here's what I saw today. A flight attendant who cares deeply about her job and the safety of her passengers. Someone who stayed professional through hours of bad behavior. Someone who only broke when safety was at risk. He paused. Those are rare qualities, Ms. Jenkins. Very rare and valuable to an airline. Sarah started to feel a tiny bit of hope. Maybe she wouldn't be fired after all. Maybe she would just be suspended or moved to a different position. So here's what's going to happen, the CEO said. You're not going to be a regular flight attendant anymore. Sarah's heart sank again. Here it comes, she thought. Instead, David Reynolds continued with a smile. I have a different job to offer you. One where your passion for safety and customer care can help the whole airline. Sarah stared at him in shock. A different job. Not fired. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Sarah sat very still. She couldn't believe what was happening. Just an hour ago, she thought her career was over. Now the CEO was talking about a new job. What kind of job? She asked carefully. David Reynolds walked back to his chair and sat down. Sky Blue Airlines has a problem, he explained. Our safety records are good, but not great. Some of our staff follow the rules because they have to, not because they understand why the rules matter. He opened a folder on the table. In the last year, we've had 24 incidents where staff didn't follow proper safety procedures. Nothing serious happened, but it could have. We were lucky. Sarah nodded. She had seen it herself sometimes. Flight attendants who rushed through safety checks or pilots who bent small rules. What we need, the CEO continued, is someone who truly cares about safety to help train our staff. Someone who understands that safety rules aren't just words in a manual. They're what keeps everyone alive. Sarah started to understand where this was going. Ms. Jenkins, I want you to become our new safety training director. Sarah's mouth fell open. Safety training director. But that's a big job. I'm just a flight attendant. a flight attendant who cared so much about safety that she slapped the CEO when he broke the rules, David Reynolds said with a small laugh. That's exactly the kind of passion we need. Sarah's mind was racing. This was not what she expected at all. A promotion instead of being fired. The job would involve designing new training programs for all staff. The CEO explained. You would teach them why safety matters, not just how to follow rules. You would share real stories and experiences. You would help change the way Sky Blue thinks about safety. But sir, Sarah said, still confused, I slapped you. That was wrong. That was against all company rules. David Reynolds touched his cheek where the red mark was starting to fade. Yes, it was wrong. And there will be consequences for that specific action. Sarah's heart sank a little. You will have to take anger management training, the CEO said firmly. And you will personally apologize to everyone who witnessed the incident on that plane. We will also make a note in your file about the incident. These seemed like fair punishments to Sarah, much better than losing her job. But, the CEO continued, your passion for safety shouldn't be punished. It should be rewarded and used to help the whole company. Sarah felt tears coming to her eyes. Thank you for this chance, Mr. Reynolds. I don't know what to say. Say you'll take the job, he replied. The starting salary is $75,000 per year, twice what you make now as a flight attendant. You'll have an office at headquarters and a team of 4 people. Sarah couldn't believe her ears. This was so much more than she ever expected in her career. There's just one condition. The CEO added, you can never slap anyone at this airline again, no matter how much they deserve it. He smiled to show he was partly joking. I promise, Sarah said quickly. I'm still so sorry about that. I know you are, David Reynolds said. And I accept your apology. Now, do you accept the job? Sarah took a deep breath. This was a huge change. She loved being a flight attendant, flying to different cities, meeting new people. But this new job could help make flying safer for everyone. Yes, she said finally. I accept. The CEO stood up and offered his hand to shake. Sarah stood too, but hesitated before shaking his hand. Is something wrong? He asked. No, Sarah said. I still can't believe you're not firing me. Most bosses would have. David Reynolds smiled. I'm not most bosses. And Sky Blue isn't most airlines. We learn from our mistakes here, both yours and mine. Yours? Sarah asked, confused. Yes, mine, the CEO admitted. I pushed you too far with my act. I shouldn't have stood up during severe turbulence, even to test you. That was actually dangerous. He looked serious now. We both made mistakes today, Ms. Jenkins. The question is, what will we learn from them? 1 month later, Sarah sat in her new office at Sky Blue Airlines headquarters. She had a desk by a big window that looked out over the airport. She could see planes taking off and landing all day. On her desk was a nameplate that said, Sarah Jenkins, Safety Training Director. Sometimes she still couldn't believe it. Her worst mistake had turned into her biggest opportunity. But not everyone was happy about her promotion. There was a knock at her door. Come in, Sarah called. Mark, the head flight attendant from her old crew, walked in. He didn't look happy. Hello, Mark, Sarah said with a smile. Thanks for coming to see me. Mark sat down but didn't return her smile. Let's be honest, Sarah. Everyone is talking about how you got this job. Sarah nodded. She knew this was coming. You mean because I slapped the CEO? Exactly, Mark said. Some people work for years trying to get promotions. You break the biggest rule we have, and suddenly you're a director with a corner office. It doesn't seem fair. Sarah understood why Mark and others might feel this way. She had thought about it a lot herself. You're right that slapping a passenger was wrong, she admitted. And I'm still taking the anger management classes. But Mr. Reynolds didn't promote me because I slapped him. He promoted me because of why I slapped him. Mark looked confused. What do you mean? I stayed professional when he complained about the food, when he was rude, when he made unreasonable demands. Sarah explained. I only lost my cool when he put safety at risk. That showed him that I really care about safety, not just following rules. Mark didn't look convinced. Still seems like a strange way to get promoted. I know, Sarah agreed. But now I have a chance to make real changes here, and I need help from experienced people like you. Mark raised his eyebrows. My help? Why would you need my help? Sarah opened a folder on her desk. I'm creating a new safety training program. It's not going to be the same boring videos and tests we've always used. It's going to be real stories from real flight crews about times when safety was at risk and how they handled it. She pushed the folder toward Mark. You've been flying for 15 years. You must have stories that could help new staff understand why safety matters. Mark hesitated, then took the folder. I do have some stories, he admitted, like the time we had a passenger try to open the exit door mid-flight because he thought it was the bathroom. That's exactly what I need, Sarah said excitedly. Real situations that staff might face. For the first time, Mark looked interested. And you're collecting these from everyone. As many as I can. Sarah nodded. Flight attendants, pilots, ground crew. The best teachers are people who have actually been there. Mark started to see what Sarah was trying to do. So you're not just sitting in this nice office making rules for the rest of us. Definitely not, Sarah said firmly. I'll still be flying one trip per month to stay connected to what's happening on the planes. And I'll be visiting every airport where Sky Blue flies to meet the staff and hear their concerns. Mark looked at the folder again, thinking. Then he looked up with a small smile. You know, I was wrong about you, Sarah. I thought you just got lucky with this promotion. But you're taking it seriously. Very seriously, Sarah agreed. What happened with Mr. Reynolds was strange and lucky in some ways. But now I have a real chance to make flying safer for everyone. I'm not going to waste that chance. Mark stood up. Okay, I'll help. And I'll talk to the others who've been complaining. Once they understand what you're really trying to do, they might change their minds too. Thank you, Mark, Sarah said, relieved. That means a lot to me. After Mark left, Sarah looked out her window at a sky blue plane taking off. Her job now was much bigger than just one flight or one plane. She was responsible for helping protect everyone who flew with Sky Blue. The mistake that she thought would end her career had instead made it bigger and more important than ever before. 3 months into her new job, Sarah was making big changes at Sky Blue Airlines. Her safety training program was almost ready to launch. She had collected over 50 real stories from staff about safety problems they had faced. She had made videos where pilots, flight attendants, and ground crew talked about their experiences. Today was an important day. Sarah was going to present her program to David Reynolds and the other company leaders. She felt nervous as she set up her computer in the big meeting room. Don't worry, said Lisa, who now worked on Sarah's team. They're going to love it. Sarah nodded but still felt butterflies in her stomach. This meeting could decide if all her hard work would actually be used by the airline. At exactly 10 o'clock, David Reynolds walked in with 5 other executives. They all wore expensive suits and serious faces. Sarah stood up straight and tried to look confident. Good morning, everyone, she began. Thank you for coming today. I'm excited to show you the new safety training program we've created. For the next 30 minutes, Sarah explained her ideas. She showed parts of the videos she had made. She talked about how new staff would learn from real experiences, not just rules in a book. And here's the most important part, Sarah said, clicking to her last slide. Every 3 months, we will add new stories and examples. The training will always be fresh and relevant. When she finished, the room was quiet. Sarah couldn't tell if that was good or bad. She looked at the executives' faces, trying to guess what they were thinking. David Reynolds spoke first. Ms. Jenkins, when I offered you this job, I expected good work, but this is excellent. You've created something that could change how our entire industry thinks about safety training. Sarah felt relief wash over her. "Thank you, sir. How soon can we start using this program?" asked another executive. "We can start with new hires next month," Sarah answered. "And all current staff can complete the training over the next 6 months." The executives asked more questions, and Sarah answered them all confidently. After the meeting, David Reynolds stayed behind to talk to her privately. "I want to thank you, Sarah," he said. "For what, sir? I'm just doing my job." "For proving me right," he smiled. "When I decided not to fire you after the slapping incident, some people thought I was crazy. They said I was rewarding bad behavior." Sarah had wondered about that herself sometimes. "But I saw something in you that day on the plane," the CEO continued. "I saw someone who truly cared about safety, even when it was difficult or unpopular. And now you've created a program that will help everyone understand why safety matters so much." Sarah felt proud hearing these words. "Thank you for giving me the chance, sir. Now I have another question for you," David Reynolds said. "How would you like to present your program at the International Airline Safety Conference next month?" Sarah's eyes widened. "The International Conference? But that's huge. All the major airlines send people to that." "Exactly," the CEO nodded. "Your ideas shouldn't just help Sky Blue. They should help make all air travel safer." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. 3 months ago, she thought she would never work on a plane again. Now she was being asked to speak at the biggest safety conference in the industry. "I would be honored," she said. As Sarah walked back to her office, she thought about how much her life had changed. The day she slapped David Reynolds had seemed like the worst day of her career. Now she understood it was actually the beginning of something much bigger and more important. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from her mother. "Just saw Sky Blue Airlines' new safety video on my flight. Wasn't that your idea? So proud of you." Sarah smiled. Her work was already starting to make a difference. Her mistake had turned into a mission to make flying safer for everyone. The International Airline Safety Conference was held in a huge hotel in Chicago. People from airlines all over the world came to share ideas about making flying safer. Sarah had never been to such an important event before. She stood backstage, looking at her notes one last time. In 10 minutes, she would speak to over 500 airline professionals. Her hands were shaking a little. "Nervous?" asked a voice behind her. It was David Reynolds. "Very," Sarah admitted. "What if they don't like my ideas? What if they laugh at me because I used to be just a flight attendant?" The CEO shook his head. "First, never say just a flight attendant. Flight attendants are the front line of safety on every plane. Second, your ideas are good. They come from real experience, not just theory." Sarah took a deep breath. "You're right. I need to remember why I'm doing this." Soon it was time for her to speak. As she walked onto the stage, the bright lights made it hard to see the audience. She put her notes on the small table and looked out at the crowd. "Good morning," she began. "My name is Sarah Jenkins. 6 months ago, I was a flight attendant for Sky Blue Airlines. And I did something terrible. I slapped a passenger." A murmur went through the audience. This was not how most conference talks started. "That passenger turned out to be my airline's new CEO," Sarah continued. "By all normal rules, I should have been fired on the spot. But something unusual happened instead." Sarah told the story of that day on the plane. She explained how the CEO had been testing staff by being difficult. She described how she stayed professional until he broke safety rules during turbulence. "What my CEO realized," Sarah said, "was that I didn't care about who he was. I cared about keeping everyone on that plane safe. And that's the heart of the new training program I want to share with you today." For the next 30 minutes, Sarah explained her program. She showed how real stories from staff could teach safety better than just rules and tests. She played short clips from her videos. "We need to help our staff understand why safety matters, not just what the rules are," she finished. "When they understand the why, they'll follow the rules even when it's hard or unpopular." When Sarah finished speaking, the room was quiet for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Soon, everyone was applauding. People stood up from their seats. It was a standing ovation. After her talk, many people came to speak with Sarah. They asked questions about her program and shared their own ideas. Representatives from other airlines wanted to know if they could use her training methods too. A woman from a big European airline shook Sarah's hand. "This is exactly what the industry needs," she said. "Would you be willing to consult with our airline to help us create something similar?" By the end of the day, Sarah had collected business cards from 20 different airlines. Everyone wanted to learn more about her training program. That evening, Sarah and David Reynolds had dinner at the hotel restaurant. "You were a hit," the CEO said, raising his glass in a toast. "Everyone's talking about your presentation." Sarah smiled. "It's still hard to believe. 6 months ago, I thought I'd never work in aviation again. Now airlines from around the world want my help." "That's because you turned a mistake into something valuable," David said. "Most people try to forget their mistakes. You learned from yours and are helping others learn too." Sarah thought about this. "I guess sometimes the worst moments in our lives can lead to the best opportunities. Especially when we're brave enough to face them honestly," the CEO added. Sarah looked around the restaurant at the other airline professionals. Many of them had nodded to her or waved. 6 months ago, none of them knew who she was. Now she was becoming known across the industry as someone with important ideas. The mistake that could have ended her career had instead opened doors she never imagined possible. 1 year after the slapping incident, Sarah sat in her office looking at a special frame on her wall. Inside the frame was the front page of Airline Business magazine. The headline read, "From Slap to Success: How One Flight Attendant Changed Airline Safety Training." Sarah's photo was on the cover. So much had changed in just 1 year. Sarah now led a team of 10 people at Sky Blue Airlines. Her safety program was being used by 15 different airlines around the world. She had traveled to Europe, Asia, and Australia to help other airlines improve their safety training. There was a knock at her door. "Come in," Sarah called. It was David Reynolds. Over the past year, he had become not just her boss, but also her mentor and friend. "Ready for the big day?" he asked with a smile. Sarah nodded. "I think so. Is everything set up in the main hall?" "All ready," David confirmed. Over 200 staff are waiting to hear the announcement. Today was a special day at Sky Blue Airlines. The company was going to share the results of Sarah's safety program after 1 full year. They walked together to the large meeting hall. It was filled with pilots, flight attendants, mechanics, and office staff. When Sarah and David walked onto the stage, everyone clapped. David stepped up to the microphone first. "1 year ago, we launched a new approach to safety training. Many of you know the unusual story of how this program began." He glanced at Sarah with a smile. "But today we're not here to talk about slaps. We're here to talk about results." He clicked a button, and a large screen showed some numbers. In the past year, safety incidents at Sky Blue Airlines have dropped by 43%. That means fewer accidents, fewer injuries, and fewer close calls. The room filled with applause. "But there's more," David continued. "Customer satisfaction with our safety procedures has increased by 27%, and staff reports of safety concerns have gone up by 62%, which means people are speaking up when they see potential problems." He turned to Sarah. "None of this would have happened without the creativity and passion of our safety training director, Sarah Jenkins." Everyone stood up and clapped as Sarah stepped forward to the microphone. "Thank you all," she said when the room quieted down. "But the real credit belongs to everyone in this room. You shared your stories. You took the training seriously. You put safety first every day." Sarah looked out at the faces of her colleagues. 1 year ago, I made a terrible mistake. I thought my career was over. But instead, that mistake started a journey that brought me here today." She paused, thinking about how to express what was in her heart. Sometimes life's worst moments can become turning points. What matters is what we learn and how we grow from our mistakes. After the meeting, many staff members came to talk to Sarah. Some shared new safety ideas. Others just wanted to say thank you. Lisa, who had been on that fateful flight a year ago, gave Sarah a hug. Who would have thought that SLAP would lead to all this? Sarah laughed. Definitely not me. I thought I'd be banned from flying forever. Later that day, Sarah was in her office packing up for the weekend when David Reynolds stopped by again. "I have a question for you," he said. "How would you feel about expanding your role? We want to create a new position, Vice President of Safety and Customer Experience." Sarah was shocked. "Vice President? Me?" David nodded. "You've proven you can lead, innovate, and inspire people. That's what we need in our leadership team." Sarah thought about her journey, from flight attendant to director to potentially vice president, all because of one moment when she lost her temper but showed her passion for safety. "I would be honored," she said. As Sarah drove home that evening, she thought about how lives can change in unexpected ways. Her worst professional mistake had led to her greatest success. The moment that should have ended her career had instead transformed it into something bigger and more meaningful than she ever imagined. Sometimes, she realized, what seems like our worst moment can become our best opportunity, if we have the courage to learn, grow, and keep moving forward.